Hello, my friend. How are you today?
Doing, buddy?
I'm
all right. You?
I'm all right. Welcome to Talking Sopranos with Michael Imperioli and Steve Sciarippa. It's not getting any better today, my friend. Things in New York are tough. Streets are empty. A lot of people are passing away. My heart goes out to everyone, and I hope you're doing better in California.
We're doing okay. We all want this to be over soon. That's it. We got to wait it out, my friend.
All right. In the meantime, we are recording Talking Sopranos. We're doing a rewatch. We are at episode 4.
Season 1, episode 4. And today we have our first very special guest.
Absolutely.
Of the podcast.
Very happy he agreed to join us.
Michael Rispoli, who played Jackie Aprile Sr., who was acting boss of the family at the time the show started.
So Junior and Tony took orders from Jackie.
Yes, and Jackie was acting boss for somebody named Eckley DeMeo, who is in jail for probably the rest of his life, basically.
Eckley, the Eckley Awards, remember those?
Wow, this is weird because then later on they said there was a brother named Eckley or an uncle named Eckley. And we used to do the Eckley Awards when we'd be out in LA for the Emmys. We'd have a party the night before at Brad Gray's house.
One of the funniest things ever.
They would show, what was it, bloopers, right?
And they would show bloopers and they would cut stuff a different way. And I have, and I'll get it later. And I will bring the Eckley Award. I have two of them.
Which is a cue ball because
it's a cue ball because
Uncle Eckley was bald. And I think mentally challenged.
And it was the awards, because everyone got an award for a scene or something. It was written by the writers and David. It was so funny. I mean, I looked forward to that every year. I will have my Eckley Award.
We should see if we could get a clip of the Eckley Awards. We got to ask Terry. I think Terry was...
Yeah,
Terry was in charge of the Eckley.
Terry Winter.
He was the producer and director. And
now, Michael Rispoli, who we talked about already, was one of the 3 guys with Stevie Van Zandt and James Gandolfini to play Tony Soprano.
The finalists to audition and the test in LA at HBO, yeah.
And obviously, we know he's a terrific actor, so David gave him a role, didn't want him to get away and gave him a role on the show.
A lot of what Jim brought, I mean, I think one of the reasons, I mean, besides Jim being a fantastic actor, which goes without saying, right? It's about his height and stature, being physically imposing that way.
Yeah,
I think was an added feature.
Well, Jim is, I think, 6'1". I think
he's always seemed much bigger. He was 6'1",
well,
but
he was
seemed
a
like
big
he
guy.
was 6'5".
He had huge hands, huge shoulders.
Yeah,
I'm a little taller than him, but he's bigger all the way
big,
around.
and when he was acting, he'd fill that frame even more, just in his intensity and stuff. But there's something about that being physically imposing, I think, that really helped him establish that authority. I think it was one of the factors.
Yeah. And now you work with Michael on Summer. Sam, you work with Michael in a bunch
I met Michael in the early 90s on a movie called Household Saints, which we're going to get into when we...
well, let's bring him on.
Why don't we bring Michael on?
Michael Rispoli, join us, my friend.
Very, very pleased to have you, Michael.
There he is. Thank you, brother. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure, Steve. Michael, how you guys doing?
Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I know.
We're very happy to have you. You're our first guest ever, and it's an honor.
know I've seen you after that night of debauchery at Foxwoods. We won't talk about that.
We won't talk about that. I know.
We'll not be talking about that some other time.
Some stuff's off limits, I guess, yeah.
Michael, did we first meet on Household Saints? Is that when we met?
Well, actually, you want to know something, Michael? I saw you in a play, in an off-Broadway play by a Montreal...
Vittorio Rossi.
Vittorio Rossi, yeah.
Because that's how I heard of you. I heard of you because you did the first production of that play.
Yeah, and then I
Little
came
Blood Brother.
That's what it was, yeah, Blood Brother. And I came and I saw you, so I met you afterwards, briefly, just after the show. How you doing? Great show. He was terrific. Michael was terrific, Steve.
Did you snub him? you didn't snub him after the show, did you, Michael?
No, he came backstage and
You
said,
didn't
"Hello."
hi-hat him. I hope you didn't hi-hat the
Oh,
guy.
that's your move. I don't do that.
Fucking
No, it was
hi-hat
great.
the guy.
It was great. I met Michael, and then Michael was on my, on your radar then, everybody's radar then. But and then
That
we
was
did
like
also,
1989, I think.
yeah, that was early.
Right.
It was early.
So let me ask you, Michael. So you started. You didn't grow up in the city. You grew up where? Like upstate?
I grew up in Rockland County, so that's right outside the city, about 20 minutes actually.
Now you knew you wanted to be an actor from high school, from early on. I mean, go way
Yeah.
back. I mean, we know each other quite a long time, but I don't know
Yeah.
that much. So tell me how this all started.
Oh man, it started in elementary school. I used to do the plays, and I didn't realize it at the time, but the teachers would pick you, and then I'd always seem to. If it was a play about Santa Claus, I was Santa Claus. If it was a play about Paul Revere, I was Paul Revere.
So you were always the lead.
Apparently, yeah, and I didn't. I did my big thing, and was the Pied Piper of Hamlet. But then I went to junior high school, and you had to audition to go into a play. And there was like 5 other elementary schools that went into the junior high school, and I auditioned. And then they put the list up, and I'm looking down the list. There's like 30 names on the list, and my name wasn't on the list. So I got rejected early, and I was like, oh shit, this sucks.
The stakes get higher as we move forward. Just like
What was your
Right.
What was your first professional acting job?
I did a play called by Peter Handke called Casper, and it was an avant-garde play, and I got paid for that, So that was good. But my first play out of school, when I went to school in the city, my first play was it was called Balm of Gilead. Malkovich directed
I
it.
saw that. I saw it at
Circle Rep.
Circle in the Square. Circle Rep.
Circle Rep.
Rep.
And then they moved it to the Minetta
To
Lane.
the Minetta Lane. I saw both of those. That was one of the greatest plays I've ever seen in my life. I remember you did the way Tarantino was in that. Brian Tarantino.
Yeah, Brian Tarantino made
Giancarlo Esposito.
Giancarlo Esposito, and
Gary
then
Sinise.
you had Gary Sinise, and you had Terry, and you had Terry Kinney, and then you had the Laurie Metcalf.
That's a great cast.
What a production that was. And the
it
music.
Was half Steppenwolf production, half Circle Rep production, and those guys were all coming in and doing the play. They were tremendous. Laurie Metcalf would do a 20-minute monologue that would bring the house down every night. It was really a great lesson for me.
One of the greatest plays I've ever seen in my life. Really, it was right when I started studying, acting.
Yeah.
And when you walk in the theater, the actors were circulating amongst the audience, right?
Yeah,
hustling people, selling Polaroids. And
that's
stuff.
what I was doing. Me with like 5 of us, because there was 22 people on stage. It took place in an all-night diner and around an all-night diner on like
Lanford Wilson was the writer.
Lanford Wilson wrote it, yeah. And Malkovich directed it, and he was doing Biff on Broadway with Dustin Hoffman.
I saw that production as well.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see that one, but he directed it, and then he would come down after the show, after he finished, up there every once in a while. It was great. It was a great.
The music was awesome. They had Tom Waits and Bruce Springsteen and Ricky Lee Jones. It was
Springsteen
fantastic.
came and saw the show too. He came
really?
To the show, which was that was a big thrill for all of us. I got a picture of him somewhere. Came backstage, but that was my introduction.
Wow. That was a great production.
Do you remember your first TV thing or movie?
Yeah, I do. My first movie was okay. So I was an extra. Back then they called them a silent bit. If you did a silent bit on a De Niro movie, Night in the City, so you get they used to have
good movie.
Is that a Richard Price script? Did he write that?
You know what? He might have wrote that actually. Yeah, I don't know. I got in there as an extra, 400 people at the Palladium. We went there at 5 o'clock in the morning. But my first film was with Michael on Household Saints. We did it down in North Carolina. That was a great time.
That's a really good movie. And Michael, your performance in that is amazing. You play a guy. It's about 3 generations of an Italian American family. They own a butcher shop. Yeah. And your character's obsessed.
I'm obsessed with Madame Butterfly. I'm obsessed with
Madame Butterfly.
Yeah, that was good, man. Who
else was in that?
Vince
Vincent
D'Onofrio,
Oh,
Lily Taylor,
great actor. So
Tracy
great
Ullman.
cast.
Tracy Ullman, and
Vic Argo,
Vic Argo, who was
who
he
was the
a great guy.
best.
He was
I
the
loved
best.
Good guy. I met him. I was lucky enough to meet him. Yeah.
But you know
when I
what,
first
Steve?
moved back here.
So I meet Michael, right? We meet down there, and I'm thinking it's your first film, and I'm thinking like everybody who's not in the business, they all think you do a movie with somebody, and you're best friends, and you're at
Sure.
each other's house on Thanksgiving and everything else, kind of like that. I was no different. I figured I'm doing a movie with these guys. We're gonna all be best friends, you know.
Yeah.
And on that film, we were really close. We would hang out. We go jet skiing on the Cape Fear River. We were like doing lots of
Yeah, it
stuff
was
together
great.
and everything. And then my second movie is when the reality hit it.
Nobody wants to talk to you, right? You know, you think you're gonna hang out. Yeah, how you doing? They barely say hello.
Yeah,
Judith Molina. Judith Molina
Oh,
was in
Judith
that.
Molina, yeah,
From the Living
Michael.
Theater.
Yeah, she's been around for. She was a kind of she was a theater legend, you know, for the Living Theater. Her
Yeah,
and
incredible.
her husband, what's the husband's name? Michael?
Julian Beck.
Julian Beck. And have you ever seen Poltergeist? If you saw Poltergeist,
He's
there's
in
the
it,
guy.
yeah.
He comes up to the door. He looks like the Amish guy, super thin, gaunt. Let me in.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was Julian Beck. Yeah.
So Michael, so it's 1997, right? The pilot is shot. You get the
pilot was
call.
97.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Summer.
you've done a ton of work up until then. 1997 comes. You get the call. Your agent says they want to see you for this new HBO show, The Sopranos. Right?
Yeah.
Do you go right? Do you go right to producers, right to David Chase at this point?
No, so okay, so I'll tell you. I'll try and make it quick too.
No, just run me through it. We want to
So
hear.
I auditioned for David, yeah, immediately. I guess to David in New York, and when
With Sheila and Georgianne. You knew them already, right? Sheila
well, I
Jaffe.
knew Sheila. I knew, but those they were not. They were kind of like they weren't. They became huge with The Sopranos, and so I guess they called me in. And Sheila, I knew through Vic Argo, you know, because I knew her through Vic Argo. Anyways, I did the audition, and then by the time I took the subway back home, they're gonna want to see you again. I said, all right, great.
But you read for David the first time, or for Georgianne and Sheila?
No, for David, yeah.
For David, right to David. And we're talking about David Chase.
Of course, yeah. In the beginning, he was another guy trying to get a show up and going at HBO. You know, I mean, he was, you know, so he was doing, and he came from network TV. But anyway, so I did it for him, but the David that everybody came to know later on, you know, through The Sopranos and trying to get on The Sopranos and everything, I think would have been different because that was post when Sopranos had blown up and become such an important creative show. But here he was looking for his lead, I guess, you know. And anyway, so it was really nice that I did it. And then they said they're going to want to see you again. I said, all right, great. We don't know when. I went out to St. George, Utah, to a place to go get in shape, hike the mountains, that kind of thing. And I was in St. George, and they say they want to see you. They want to test you in LA. I said, oh, shoot, okay. I was out in St. George for like a 2-week stint or something. So I had to drive to Vegas, and then I flew to LA, and they picked me up, and they brought me like Century City, one of those hotels over there.
Yeah, Century City. Exactly.
Yeah. And I walked across the street to HBO, and we did the test there. And I saw Stevie Van Zandt. He went in a couple times, then he came out, and then he went home. But I saw Jimmy. Now I had known
And you'd known Jimmy. Yeah, you had known Jimmy.
Yeah, so Jimmy, I met Jimmy on a movie called Angie, and that
with Gina Davis,
with
right?
Gina Davis, Aida Totoro, yeah, and that's when we first met. We, you know, kind of got along great and everything. We hung out after that for a while. Then we did The Juror with Alec Baldwin and Demi
Good
Moore.
movie. Good movie.
Yeah. So it was good. So I had already known Jimmy that way, and then you know we became friendly. You know, running around New York a little bit, and then this came up, and Jimmy and I. We would go up. It would kind of come down. We're kind of coming up at the same time in a sense, and it would come down to many roles. You know, like it would. You know,
to the two of you, down to the two of you.
But I got to be honest with you, Jimmy took more of those than I did. You know, and
yeah. But Michael, let me ask you. So when you read the Soprano script, because I asked Michael, I wasn't there at the beginning. I mean, do you know it's going to be a hit? Do you think it? Do you like the material? Do you say
No.
this is the greatest thing I've ever read in my life? What do you
No,
What do you
listen.
say?
All right, so listen, I'm going to spin through this, okay? Because I know there's a thing, but um, I knew
Hey,
that show.
Michael, we
Yeah.
ain't got no fucking way to go.
All right, I'll tell you this. So I'm gonna go back to Century City, and then I'll tell you what. Because so we went in, and then Jimmy went in and came out. Then I went in and came out. Then he goes in and comes out, and I go in and come out. It was like that.
I was there. I was in the waiting room.
Oh
Well,
shit,
why'd you-
Michael, you were
Yeah.
there
But
exactly.
Why
man.
Why
I
did you
was.
go in twice? Why do you go in twice?
Because I read with a couple other people. I read with they not
Ah,
Edie wasn't there, but I read with a few Carmelas, you know.
you
And
remember any other Carmelas?
I don't remember them. But anyways, then they said, all right, Jimmy's gonna go in again. And I saw Jimmy outside, and I said, I go, look, Jimmy, I'm across the street. When you're done, let's have lunch. He goes, all right, I'll come over. We'll have lunch. So he came over. I went back to the hotel. He came over. I don't know, like a half an hour later, whatever it was. And then we sat down. We had lunch. And again, like I said, we had known each other from other things. And I said, look, if it ain't me, it'll be you, and good for you. And he said, yeah, and if it's not me, it'll be you, and good for you. And very, he was very generous, Jimmy. You know what I mean? So then the next day, I flew back to St. George, Utah, and while I was there, my manager called, and it would be like one day she'd say, look, they really want you, and then that by the evening they go, they really want Jimmy, and then the next day it was like, no, they're back with you. And the next day, it's like back with Jimmy, and then finally she gives me.
God. This is, but as an actor, you're waiting for this job. I mean, it's fucking torture.
Well, now this is what it is. Yeah, so it is torture. And here's the thing. So my wife, Madeline, we're expecting our first child. And I'm thinking, let me get this friggin' thing. I can do the pilot, and then I can just cruise through the birth till the end of the year, whatever, until it gets picked up. Because I knew this show was going to get picked up. I knew it was going to get picked up. I knew it was going to go. I knew it was like, just because the writing, it was just, to me, it was like already brilliant. They had the brilliance in it, and so many places you could go with it. So anyways, it goes to Jimmy. So I call up Jimmy and I say, congratulations, you fuck. You're going to be great in this. And he laughed. He goes, yeah, thanks. Listen, I don't know what to do. I never did TV. And I had done a few TV shows.
Yeah.
I said, don't worry about it. You're going to take to it like a duck to water. And anyway, so that was it. Then they shoot the pilot. Obviously, I wasn't there. But then they go to series. And David calls me up, David Chase. And he said, look, and you know who was on the phone too with him? Mitch and Robin. They were on the phone.
Mitchell Burgess and Robin Green, who were
Green.
writers and producers on the show.
Yeah, so they were on the phone with him, and they said, look, I got this part, and I'm going to take him down from an older guy to be a contemporary with Tony Soprano. And I said, all right. I said, great. And he says, but he dies. And I said, come on, man, I don't want to die in the show. And he goes, well, I said, make me a boss from like Philly or South Jersey. I'll come in every once in a while. I don't got to be a regular, And he goes, I don't have any parts like that. There's nothing in there. He goes, we only got 13 episodes. I don't even know if I'm going to, how long it's going to go. And you got to remember, David came from network TV, and they would like can a show like that.
Yeah.
And I said, David, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm telling you, this is going. This is going. So he said, I just said, listen, maybe I'll tell you what, how about I'll come back next year, I'll shave my head, I'll come back like his brother, Derek Tippeel's brother, who comes out of prison looking for his own. And he said, and he goes, hey, that's a good idea. And I said, okay, good. So we did it. And of course, the show became huge. And they did bring a brother character back, Richie Aprile, and which Davey Proval played. And
right. So he's your brother. Richie Aprile
right.
is Jackie's brother. Right.
Jackie's brother.
I never knew that. I never put that together.
I said that to David on the phone. Now, David didn't say yes, and you will play the part, but he didn't say that. I'm saying, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'll shave my head, I'll come back, I'll play him that way, And he did say that was a great idea. But
well, let me ask you, Michael. So now, I mean, you got a baby. I mean, you lost this big role. You lost it to Jim, and I get it. If I don't get it, I want my friend to get it, but that's a fucking sting, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a sting.
It's a sting. I mean, we all get it. It's happened one degree or another to all of us.
Sure.
As the series goes on, I mean, are you going fuck, or you wind up doing just fine for yourself?
Yeah, well, thank God. So here's the thing. The show went on the air, and I went out with Jimmy one night. We're running around, and he said, they tell me when you do TV, all this work starts coming in. I got no work coming in. I said, I'm getting all the work you're not available for.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what happened was then he had his son, Michael, after that. And then I think after the first season, it got Emmy nominations. Am I right, Michael? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first cable show to get nominated. It was 16 nominations.
Yeah. So they came out and they and then things started. It was working great. For him and everything. It was then. I was doing a show for Fox, and it was a terrible show. I won't even say the name, but it was a terrible show. I was surprised it even got on the air.
The pilot you did for Fox, I actually auditioned for a role in there. It was after my first season on Sopranos. With Renzulli and Tim Van Patten. I actually auditioned for something.
Oh, that was a different one. That was
different.
Yeah, that was.
How many pilots have you starred in?
You want to know?
Yeah, well, that's why I'm asking.
No, but I'll tell you. So I've done 24 pilots.
Wow.
I've done 24 pilots. I was the lead in 12 of them.
That might be the record, man.
I'll tell you, man. If people talk about Tom Selleck, you're on the show with Tom Selleck. They talk about Tom. They talk about George Clooney. I'm going. I did fucking more pilots than these guys.
Wow.
But
24 pilots.
That's a lot of pilots.
Yeah, I was the lead or the co-lead. And I think it was 12, but I think around 12. Yeah, but the show that I was doing was a cop show in Philly that we shot in L.A. and we had to avoid friggin' palm trees, trying to make people think we were in.
And what were you playing? You were playing a cop,
I was a
lawyer?
cop in that one, yeah. No, I was a cop in that one. But the one you're talking about with Renzulli.
The Great Defender, right?
The Great Defender I'd already done a few years before.
That was Renzulli, Frank.
That was Renzulli and Terry Winter.
Really?
It was Terry's first writing job. He was at Warner Brothers. Terry was a lawyer. And he's like, I don't want to be a lawyer. And he wanted to be a writer. And he followed up on it, man. And he went and he became part of the Warner Brothers writing program. And this show was being produced by Warner Brothers, The Great Defender, which was also for Fox. That was the first TV show I ever did. And then he came up. Frankie Renzulli brought him on, and he wrote one of the.
And Frank Renzulli was one of the writers. What, the first 2 or 3 seasons on The Sopranos?
Yeah. In fact, I remember saying to Frankie, you gotta look at this show, The Sopranos. I'm telling you, it's right up your alley, And he said, "Oh, I got an interview to be a writer on it already." So.
He was great. Frank was great. Yeah. Frank's a good guy, a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Guy. He's a lot of fun.
He don't take no shit from nobody. I love that.
No, he don't, man. He don't. He's great. So, but Steve, let me just jump back to when the show was going on. So now the show becomes a phenomenon, right? HBO all of a sudden becomes this huge place to do, to do great creative work. And this is what I've always said when it's come to, people ask me about The Sopranos, and I say, look, I know this much at the beginning, but it was the first place where you could make a movie on your TV, an original movie. You could fight, you could fuck, you could curse, you could do whatever, which you didn't have on TV. Everything else was network or it was a regular cable where you couldn't do those kind of things. But here you could make a movie, an art piece, a film every week, and you guys did. And I wish I was a part of that more. And I have to say something about James. So, and jumping back a little bit too, I would have loved my shot at playing Tony Soprano. We all would have, right? I mean, I would have loved my shot at playing him. And back then, a little more spit and vinegar. And sorry, I'm getting older now, right? But I would have loved my shot at it. But Jimmy took that pilot. For those people who don't know what a pilot is, I keep talking about pilots. But when you do a pilot, it's the initial episode of what will maybe become a series. So they want to see how the producers, the networks, they want to see how it comes together, becomes a show, and if they can get years out of it. So they look at it once it's assembled, they go, yes, we'll take an order. So they want to get the right lead in order for that pilot, the guy flying the plane, could take that plane where it's got to go. But honestly, and again, may he rest in peace, James, he did more than that with that pilot. He flew that plane up into the stratosphere. He became the first television astronaut. I'm telling you, man. And I say this to everybody that because that wasn't seen before. But this show brought viewers to HBO, Sopranos, and then they discovered Sex in the City.
Of course.
So now you had in a household, you had men wanting to pay for HBO, and the women in the household wanting to pay to see Sex in the City. And all of a sudden, HBO just took off. You know,
listen, a lot of people, after the Sopranos season was over, they would cancel HBO.
They cancel HBO. Yeah, exactly. You know? But the household started paying for that cable service. You know?
Well, listen, you went on to an incredible career. You work with Jim and Pelham 123. You work with Johnny Depp. I mean, you work with Mark Wahlberg, on and on and on. And you continue to work.
You did a couple with him, right?
I did two. I did three, actually.
I mean, you were great in The Deuce. The Deuce was great. I watched that all the way through.
How did you like working with Michael Gandolfini?
Listen, man, I love working with him, and I have to be honest with you. I look at his face, and he looks like his father, like around his eyes. You know, he looks like.
I know, very much.
You guys were talking about how this Jimmy's stature, right? So you know, Jimmy was big, like you say. He was 6'1", but he kind of had his shoulders up here, kind of. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he kind of
big, huge hands, huge hands.
Yeah, he had big hands. So I do this film. I go down to Jacksonville. He's doing a film called with John Travolta, and he had done a few with John Travolta, and
The Honeymoon Killers, that one.
Yeah, it was it was a love letter, something like that. Yes, it was about like you know, based on a real thing that happened in the 40s. So he's playing a detective in the 40s, and Travolta is too, and they're trying to get the Lonely Hearts. It was called Lonely Hearts.
Lonely Hearts, yeah.
So I go down. I play the coroner. I'm playing the coroner, and I go down there and I see him, you know, and I go, hey, Jimmy, and I hadn't seen him for a little while then, and he had gotten big, like big this way, you know what I mean? And they had these wool suits on. It was so hot in Jacksonville, Florida, but they had to wear the wool suits in the 1940s. And I'm walking, they call us to set, and he picks up his jacket, and he's in front of me, and I'm seeing this huge, I said, that's a lot of cloth in that suit, it's a big, heavy wool suit. And he was like carrying some weight back then, you know. So, anyways, it was fun. We had a good time. We had a good time with that one.
And you worked a lot at you worked with all the guys on The Sopranos. I mean, yeah, I think the first time we see you is the sit down.
The sit down. Yeah,
in episode 2.
Outside the pork store.
In front of Satriani's, yeah. And you know, I got to tell you, can we talk some acting choices? We still got time?
We got time.
All right. So I'm sitting down there. That might have been my first scene with The Sopranos. It probably was. And now David
was that in the pilot?
No, because I wasn't in the pilot.
Episode 2.
I wasn't in the pilot. Yeah. And we're doing it, and I made a choice. I mean, you always think about your choices maybe afterwards when you see the films. I mean, Mike, Steve, you guys ever regret?
Absolutely.
All the time.
Most of the time. That's why I don't watch a lot of what I do, because I always could do better.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I'm the same way.
I always could do better.
Michael, you remember in Household Saints, they used to show the
dailies?
The dailies, and we'd all show up and we'd watch the dailies together. I don't know if you did that or whatever. Last time I ever did that, and because I'm like, once they say check the gate, I'm like, ain't nothing I can do about this anymore. I hope there's.
I'm with you. I feel the same way.
Editor, you know. But anyways, I remember sitting outside there and doing that, and they had to make me up to look a little sick and everything. And I remember making a choice that later on, like, as soon as I fucking go back to my trail, I'm like, what the fuck did you play that? Why'd you go down that path, you know? Anyways, but finally when the show comes out, the scene comes out, they had cut that. They had cut that little bad choice I made. I said, oh, that's a good editor, man, because I didn't like the way I had done this one thing. But anyways, that was.
But you're in 2, 3, and 4.
I think so. 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4. Because today we're going to talk about 4, where is your funeral where you pass away.
And you're in the dream sequence at the beginning, and then the hospital.
You're smoking a cigarette, and
Smoking a cigarette.
episode 3 is when Jim gets you the hooker, the stripper / hooker.
Yeah.
That was a nice scene to do.
Listen,
you actually got paid for that.
I know. Can I tell you something? It was a great scene. It was a great scene to do and everything. And the girl, the actress,
Michael knows. Michael, what's her name? Imperioli.
Panada?
Yes, Bernadette. Bernadette Panati. Yeah.
She was so, listen, she was so
She's a great lady. A great actress.
She's a great lady. And she's a doll. And she looks gorgeous. And she was like going to the gym. She's like, fitting. And she has to do the scene. And I hand it to any woman I hand it to, because usually it's the women that are asked to take their clothes off. Guys, not, so much, I guess unless Brad Pitt.
Especially not on our show.
Well, there ain't nobody in America wants to see me naked. My poor wife, she's got to suffer.
I hear you. So she has to come in, and she was game. She knew she was just terrific. And then she goes, oh, well, then maybe this. And she unzips it, and she shows her breast, and beautiful, phenomenal breasts, and it's person and body and everything else. Now they got to move the camera to Jimmy's POV behind her. And she got all embarrassed. She did not want to show her rear end because she had no problem showing here, but she didn't want to show her rear end because she thought she had a fat rear end. I'm going, what? You got to be kidding me.
She was a good sport.
She was a great sport. And I said, please, sweetheart, I said, if she thinks she's got a big rear end, every girl must think they got a big rear end. Because I was surprised that she was so modest about her back as opposed to her front. Great scene, though. That was the third episode, right?
Well, you went on
to episode 3, yeah, exactly.
Well, you went on to a great career. I'm sure there's still a pilot out there that you're going to be the lead, and you're going to finally hit the jackpot.
Well, listen,
I honestly believe that.
Well, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. I mean, look, you never know. Maybe if they redo Columbo, we'll
that'd be great.
That would be good.
Hey, actually, I was in the last Columbo.
You kidding
the
me?
last scene of the last Columbo. I worked with Peter Falk. I played a character named Freddie. It's called Columbo Loves or Likes the Nightlife. It was about someone who was killed in a disco, and they put them in the disco floor. And I played kind of a wise guy messenger from New York. I had 2 scenes with Peter Falk. It was fantastic. I had a 5-page scene with him in his Peugeot.
I love Peter Falk.
I barely fit in, and I'm in the last Columbo. Just by luck, the last scene of the last Columbo.
That's fantastic, man. That's great. And I'm going to tell you this last thing. Steve, I called you, or you called me when you were coming on to the show, season 2, right?
Yeah, Vegas.
John Manfrotati had
mutual friend, a stand-up comic actor.
Yeah, great stand-up. Yeah, and I said, he said, Steve, my friend Steve Shrip is going to be doing a show, and he's coming to New York, and he's from Brooklyn, but I think you were living out in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And you were going to be doing the show, and he just wanted to ask about some, acting coaches, teachers, or whatever.
Yeah. And you recommended Harold Golnick. Did he? Or somebody recommended
Guskin.
Guskin?
Yeah, but I had never.
That was Jimmy's guy.
That was Jimmy's guy.
But I spoke to him, and he was in Toronto, and he said, "Which one are you?" Like we're all the same, Yeah. Which one are you? And I told him, and he said, "All right, I'll work with you when I get back." But it was too late, and I remember we spoke about that. That was season 3.
On the phone a little bit, just talking, just a little bit. I remember that. That was the first time I'd spoken with you. But anyways, listen, man, you went on and played Bobby Bacalao.
Knock on wood. Thank you very much, Michael. You stay safe. Your family. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, you
Good
too.
luck. And when this is over, we'll have another night of debauchery.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
What do you do? Let's do it.
We're overdue.
Come on, guys. Come on.
All right,
man.
Brother. Thanks for
Take care, pal.
coming on, Michael.
Good to
I'll
see
talk
you.
to you guys.
All right.
We got to take a little break here, and then we'll come back and talk about episode
4.
104, season 1, episode 4.
Thanks for that. Thanks for Michael Rispoli. I mean, great interview. Everything that I thought so, and then some. I mean,
And a great actor.
Thank you, Michael. And I'm sure maybe the 25th pilot will be the one where he'll, who knows? He keeps on going. I don't know. Has anyone done 24 pilots?
That's a lot of pilots.
It has nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with him. I don't know if people realize how hard it is that a pilot gets bought by a network.
First of all, to get cast on a pilot, you're competing against hundreds of actors.
Almost impossible. So you get cast. All right. Now they shoot the pilot.
Right.
And
they may shoot 30 pilots that season, the network. So they can't take 30 pilots and put them on the air and pick them up. They're going to choose maybe 5.
So they got 3. You got to wait 2, 3, 4 months to see if it gets picked up. Okay, you get the call. It got picked up. So you jump through the hoop of auditioning and getting it. Then you test for the network. Then you shoot the pilot. Pilot got picked up. Bingo. They pick you up for 10. Now you're going to
shoot 10, 13, if you're lucky, 22, but usually not. And sometimes they recast. Sometimes they don't keep the original people. They don't like everybody. They want to get somebody else. They're balancing out the cast. Now, you go on the air and you got to get good ratings. If you don't get good ratings, you don't get another season, or you don't get a full season. It's very, very, very hard.
And if we think about it, every season, especially prime time, every season, what are there? 3, 4 breakout shows? You know what I mean?
Maybe not.
Maybe 3, 4 breakout shows. So, and to get picked up year after year, it's a near impossible task. Even the worst show, the worst ratings, even that's hard to get on, to get cast.
Very, very hard. Very competitive. We're going into episode 4 from season 1, which is called Meadowlands.
But before we do that, can I show you my Eckerly Award? Do you see
from
it?
what year? 2004.
2004. The 2004 Eckerly Award, the cue ball. And this was named after Junior's mentally challenged brother.
I think so. But like in this episode, they talk about Ercole DeMeo, who's the boss of the family, who's in jail. That's who Jackie Aprile is acting boss for.
Well,
I think they change that later. We gotta,
When we have
the Eckel Award.
When we have Terry Winter on, we'll have
That's
him,
worth more than the Emmy. That Eckel Award.
All right. So
episode 104. This is called Meadowlands. This is the first episode directed by the great John Patterson, who was born 80 years ago today.
Really?
Today would be John Patterson's 80th birthday.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he died. He was about 65 when he died of cancer in, I think, 2004 or 5. But he was one of our great directors. He did all the season finales.
He was a great guy.
He was from Buffalo, New York. He was in the Air Force. He was a navigator for B-52 bombers for Strategic Air Command. And during the Cuban Missile Crisis, he did this. And then he met David Chase at Stanford Film School. So they go back to college days. They worked together on Rockford. John Patterson did a lot of TV. He did Hill Street Blues. He did Magnum. He also did the pilot of Law and Order.
Really? So he got paid. He got paid for that forever.
He did very well. He was also a sailor. He had a sailboat, I think in the Marina Del Rey in LA.
And I think he won 2 Emmys for The Sopranos.
He did Pussy's last when Pussy Gets Killed, Funhouse, and one of the greatest episodes of The Sopranos, Whitecaps. Some of the best acting ever on The Sopranos. John also directed that episode.
I like John a lot. He was when he was sick later on. He would send the AD, the first AD, over instead of him walking over to you and he would say, John said to bring it down 33 1/3%.
Yeah, he would always say stuff like that.
Instead of
say, just take it a little down emotionally.
But this is how he did it. So he gave you a note, but he did it with humor. So you don't go, what do you mean?
Always. He was very funny. He had one of the greatest demeanors. He would always say, give direction. He goes, and after we would cut, that's the way it works. That was one of his things. His other great quote was, this is a selfish business. which meant, because when you're on a movie set, everybody's got issues, right? The wardrobe, they're worried about how the clothes look on
Everybody's
camera.
the most
The
important.
makeup's worried about this. The camera's worried about their thing. The actors are worried about their thing. The producers worried that we're going too late. The caterer's worried that they didn't have enough, salmon for the day. And because I worked closely with him on especially on Marco Polo, the last one that I wrote. I was a producer on set, and he directed it.
I know you liked him very much. Yeah, you liked him very much.
And he said that to me. He goes, basically what you're doing is answering questions as a director. Everybody's got questions, and you got to answer their questions. And he says it's a selfish business, and you can't take anything too seriously. And what seems like their most important thing in their department is often a small piece of the puzzle in the big picture, and you always got to keep that perspective. And David said about John, when John was directing, the camera was always in the right place. And he knew his craft.
And the crew and the cast loved him. And I remember when he passed away, we had a memorial on set. Were you there that day?
I was. They had his director's chair and a TV set.
People got up and spoke, and I think his daughter was his assistant towards the end, right?
That was his stepdaughter. Anastasia. Yeah, she's a great lady.
And he was a terrific guy. But I always got a kick out of that. John said, he was
take it down
or bring it up. Bring it up.
16%.
So where an actor may not take, notes or criticism too well, he found a humorous way that worked for him. So you don't go, what the fuck do you mean? I mean, it's obviously funny, and I like John a lot. Yeah. All right. So.
And written by a guy named Jason Cahill, who did
what's up?
He also did Boca, the episode Boca, and he did Guy Walks into a Psychiatrist's Office season 2. He did a lot of TV, NYPD Blue, but as of late did a lot of Fear the Walking Dead.
Oh, okay. I don't think I ever was in any of his episodes. I don't.
He was the last episode he wrote was the first episode of season 2 for The Sopranos.
Oh, really? Okay. So I came on the second one. Okay, so we open up on Melfi's Lakes.
The first Soprano dream sequence.
Tony is oogling. Is that a word? Oogling. Her leg.
It is now. Oogling is now officially a word.
Tony was fucking oogling. I don't care about oogling. And Melfi's Lakes. We hear the ducks in the background. We see Hesh walks by.
He floats by. He's not really. He's kind of like on a dolly or something.
Yeah. And then she calls him Heshy. Heshy has at 3:00.
Okay, 3:00. Now that would come back a lot in the dream in From Where to Eternity season 2. He says, the psychic says to Paulie something about 3:00. 3:00 comes back several times over the course of the season. Even in this episode, Anthony Jr. gets challenged to a fight 3:00 in the playground. So
and what do you think the meaning of that is?
I'm not allowed to ever say.
But
I am not allowed to ever say, Steve. I got to go to my grave with what 3:00 means.
Are you joking? All right, whatever you say. I trust you here. So AJ looks through the door.
AJ looks at him, and it's very reflective of the last scene of this episode when AJ's looking at him in the cemetery.
And Silvio's having sex with a big smile on his face. Paulie's in the waiting room.
They're reading the newspaper again. A lot of newspaper reading.
These guys, let me tell you,
very informed with current events.
These wise guys are very, very smart. They're informed. They're big readers. Big readers. The hospital, Jackie's smoking. The monitor beeps. It flatlines, and Melfi turns around. Also, we think it's Melfi, and it's Livia. So the first of many dream sequences, and David's done this a lot. Sometimes they mean things, and sometimes I guess they don't mean things.
Like dreams, or you can't. I mean, everything in a dream pops up for some reason, obviously, but sometimes you can't really figure out why it's there. I mean, there's obvious Melfi is this female authority figure in his life now, who's examining him, trying to figure out his issues. And he's got his mother, who's, you know, a similar authority figure. And so is his wife. So is Carmela in a lot of ways. And the women in this episode, you even see it from Meadow a bit.
Oh, yeah.
With AJ and the way she's dealing with him, the way she schools him and teaches him about what their father really does for a living. So there's the women in Tony Soprano's life. We start to really see, you know, what significance of what they really represent. You know,
now Tony
starts to do that.
Tony jumps out of bed. He wakes up.
But if you notice, though, at the beginning of the dream, Tony he's in therapy with Melfi, but he's in the position of control. He's saying to her, she's speechless, and he's saying, don't you have something to say? He's relaxed, kind of in control, as if he's the therapist. It's very interesting.
It's amazing. The show, you know, you're a much deeper thinker than I am. And it's amazing how brilliant the writing is. That's all I can say. So Tony jumps out of bed. He's in bed with his Gomata Irina, and you see him with this giant tattoo, which is fake, which has been, I don't know if a lot of people know that or not, but that was drawn on his arm at the beginning of every show that he was showing his.
It was a decal, a transfer.
He had the Guinea T-shirt on. He jumps up.
I don't think you could say Guinea T-shirt anymore, Steve.
No?
I don't know.
Italian T-shirt? I didn't say white.
Maybe you could say it, but someone else can't say it.
I didn't say
if
white.
You're not Italian, you can't say it.
Well, I'm a Jew, so what? A schmata. Yeah. Tony's wearing the schmata with the straps. That's a Jew thing. I could say a Jew thing. I'm half a Jew, right?
You could say either because you're Italian and Jewish. You're lucky.
I got a green light.
My kids are half Jewish.
There you go. You got the green light. All right, Soprano living room. We see Tony and AJ, they're playing a video game, and they kind of bond. You see that?
And Robert is just
great acting.
Subtle and honest and just really good acting.
I mean, you see it from right there, right at the beginning. What is he, 12, 13 years old?
I don't know, man. Really
this
young.
Kid, right from the beginning, just his instincts. He's a really good actor. He's sitting, you know, cross-legged on the floor.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Relaxed.
They bond over the video game. And
Jimmy
like I
says,
said,
a line, focus through distractions, which is kind of what is going on in his own life.
Exactly.
It's a great line.
And I see Robert, and you got to be impressed. I mean, he was a really good actor. We'll talk to him more about this next week. And you see it throughout the series as he gets better and better. But right there, it says it all. You know, and same thing with Jamie Lynn, who was older than him. Didn't work all that much before this. Terrific, man.
But it was perfect.
All right, so you're leaving the hospital with Adriana.
Chris is really, really paranoid. I mean, he's thinking that they're going to, you know, he's convinced that Tony found out that Chris gave Meadow drugs.
The crystal meth.
And he thinks this is bad. This is going to end in his, you know, in his death, maybe. I mean, this is the worst thing that can happen. He's really paranoid. Adriana brings up the fact that Chris, you know, shit in his pants during this Mock's execution. It's the first time they mention it. It's mentioned several times. No, more than that. Junior brings it up.
He's a high colonic. You gave him a high colonic.
Yo-Yo Mendez brings it up and says it was a BM. And then, weirdly enough, Livia, when Tony's talking about why don't you go on this trip to the city for dinner and a show, she goes, "Oh, grown men defecating in their pants in the city," which, you know, we'll get to that later. But it's brought up. Chris doesn't want to hear it, but he wants to score. He says, "Let's go to Brendan's. Let's score some shit." So it's really establishing he's not just using drugs, he's addicted to drugs. Exactly. He desperately wants to get drugs and score drugs.
Do you think at this point Adriana is addicted?
No.
But she's a user. She's a user,
but I don't think she's addicted. I think Chris is getting deep.
And you see this very early on. Adriana is a smart aleck. She's a tough broad. And
she loves him too.
Yeah,
She loves
but
Christopher.
she's a gun mall. You see this, right? She's attracted to
She's a gun
Christopher
mom. She's
and
a
this
mob
world.
wife. Yeah.
She is absolutely. All right. Brendan's apartment. You find Brendan dead.
Very graphic. Very bloody.
Now you see him with the bullet hole in his eyeglasses, a la Mo Green from The Godfather, which is brought up later on. You didn't see that in episode 3.
No, it was kind of tame. His execution in episode 3 was kind of tame, but here the result of it, the aftermath, is very graphic, very bloody. Now Chris really freaks out. Number one, his friend is dead, but number two, it means, his paranoia now goes to another level.
But you also see that Chris is really a friend to this guy. I mean, you're upset. Yeah. It's not just a mobby thing. I mean,
they were friends. Yeah,
they were probably friends for a long time. AJ's school. AJ plays a joke on his friend Jeremy. They have a fight in the hallway. You can, once again, great scene. You see Robert, a really good actor. Okay, Tony sees Sil in the hallway.
Now, this is the dream coming true in a way, because in the dream, the wise guys were all outside the office, which basically says they know he's in therapy, which is a big fear of Tony's, that they're going to find out he's in therapy. It's going to ruin him, his stature and his place in the family. And here is Silvio down the hall in another office, and the dentist. And
Tony ducks into the doctor's office. He says, "Sir, can I help you?" Yeah. Silvio goes by. So Tony's worried. He's in Melfi's office. He's saying this isn't going to work out. He's worried they're going to find out that he's seeing a psychiatrist, and she makes mention of something. I thought we were making progress on your narcissism.
Yeah, very interesting.
And then she says, he asks her a question, and she says, "I take the fifth." And then she giggles. Oh, she makes a pun, a joke. It just slips out, and she acknowledges that.
The narcissism is interesting. That because Tony Soprano, it's all about Tony. And he does care for people, and he is there for people. But at the end of the day,
but aren't they all?
He's number one.
Aren't all wise guys?
I think that's the nature of the beast. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what it's all about.
And this scene also, Tony, like the dream again, it's coming true. He's trying to take control of this situation. "Who are you?" he says to Melfi. And now he's going to decide to do surveillance on her, because he wants, not only, I think, is it to protect him, to make sure that he's safe, right? That nobody finds out. But I think it's also, he wants to have control here, because this is an area of his life.
Well, he also wants to know who he's talking to. He's telling her,
but he also, he's telling her that, and he's afraid. But I think on a subconscious level, he also wants, he's used to being in control of everything. That's his whole thing. And I think that's why the dream scared him. Yeah. Not only from people finding out he's in therapy, but also him losing control. And that's part of, I think, what's going on here.
So Meadow School, Chris and Adriana, they pick up Meadow.
I love that Hunter says, did Brendan get my poem?
Oh, man. He's dead, and you're losing it. You're screaming at Meadow. But you know what? Meadow doesn't back down. She's right fucking back at Chris. She didn't curl up. This is a high school kid.
It's a high school kid, and it also kind of shows their history a little bit. Christopher says, I used to buy you Happy Meals. Like, they work, there's a relationship, there's a history, there's a closeness. Christopher says, don't ever say you hate life. That's blasphemy, which I find hilarious.
Yeah. But she doesn't back down. Meadow's a tough.
But now it makes him think, okay, so if she didn't tell Tony that Christopher gave her drugs, Chris is thinking, what happened?
What else is there?
Now why was he Mox executed? Why is Brendan dead?
So Carmela, she sees AJ's ripped shirt. She confronts him.
AJ's wearing a Marilyn Manson shirt in this scene. It's just kind of funny.
But the shirt that he had to fight in, she wants him to get the $40 from the other kid, and they were friends. And she says, but you guys were friends, which happens when you're younger. One day you're friends, one day you're fighting, blah, blah, blah. He offers to wash her car. And a little thing, she says, but he never does a good job. Whatever, however she says it. these are the little things that make the show so great. Where does that come in? But you know, you never clean it the right way. You know,
Right, of course.
Carmela. Okay, then we go to retirement home.
Which is great when Tony brings Livia her
Macaroons.
favorite pastries, and at first it's Nancy Marchand is so great. She's happy that he brought her this. And then she catches herself, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, they're too sweet." She goes from you know, she can't contain her happiness, and then she catches herself.
Oh, she can't let him know.
She can't let him know.
Can't let him know that she's happy. My mother was very much like that. In that way, honestly. And I love my mother to death, but, you know, like if we would go out to eat, you know, she order a hamburger. Oh, no way. I could never finish it. No. And of course she finished it, but she never wanted you to know that she was having a good time.
That she was happy, or that you made her happy. Like here, Livia doesn't want Tony to know that he's making her happy.
And there's
and
a
this
lot
is
of
where he
people.
brings up going, you're not participating, you're not making the best. You know, she's in this beautiful nursing home, the most expensive
most
one
expensive
in the city.
in New Jersey, and she cannot show him that she's happy or content. She'll never do it. It'll never happen.
She doesn't want to go on the trip to Manhattan to see a Broadway show. She says the city's horrible, mothers throwing babies out the window.
And she likes Broadway. She's been there before. He says, but you love it, but not going to show it now. So we meet John Hurd, who plays Lieutenant.
Macasian, and he's pissing in the bushes, which is hilarious.
You could just see he's a broken down.
He's a drunken
gambler,
degenerate cop, dirty cop.
He's paying 2 alimonies on a $40,000 a year salary.
And John Hurd, now this is a great actor as well. I mean, he theater actor, Shakespeare in the Park. He won an Obie for Othello.
Well, he was once at one point he was A-list up there with as big as anyone. Did big movies with big people.
People. He did that Paul Schrader movie, Natasha.
I think there was some. I think he had some problems along the way.
Well, he said it. He's admitted it. He said he had a lot of opportunity in the beginning, and that he didn't really like playing the game. He was basically didn't like the bullshit of Hollywood. He was difficult, and he realized that, and he realized that it got in his way of having a bigger career than he could have. But he always worked. I mean,
always worked. But he was an A-list guy at one point. I met him at the Grand Havana Room. I was there for a charity event, and he was at the bar having a cigar and having a few drinks. And he introduced himself, and he was very nice, complimentary. I was into the show a few years. He was very nice, very, very nice. I mean,
I think he was just brilliant in this role. I mean, really perfect. I loved what he brought to it. I think he was very believable and very interesting choices as an actor.
Oh, absolutely. And, you could see he's down on his luck. He's stuck to Tony for money. So once again, when the mob sees an opportunity, they jump. That's what that's all about.
That's it.
You're in trouble with your restaurant. We saw it in Goodfellas. You go for help. You open that door a little bit. You borrow money, et cetera, you're dead. You're done.
That's it.
That's what it's all about. Same thing here with John Hurd. He's stuck. He's stuck for Tony, and Tony, of course, is gonna make the best.
John Hurd was married to Margot Kidder for 6 days. Did you know that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. May they both rest in peace, and I mean that.
Yeah.
Jackie's in the hospital. Chris arrives. You want revenge for Brendan. You come in all hyper again. He killed my friend.
Bad timing. Chris's timing is always off. They're worried about Jackie. Jackie's really sick. Chris runs in there and is all steamed up about.
You're always riled up. The guy's dying, and you're fucking talking about something completely
different.
And
they're talking about the message getting shot in the eye because his eyes were too big for his stomach.
And
if he's a rat, he gets shot in the mouth.
Well, Pussy and Paulie have an intelligent talk about The Godfather. Pussy's explaining to him what it means. All right. Tony beats up Mikey with the staple gun. Tony, you could see right from the beginning, does not like Mikey Parmise. He works for Junior. He gives him a beating, and then he drops the staple gun like Al Pacino did in The Godfather.
And
the restaurant.
Godfather, the first Godfather. That's true.
He drops the stapler. Also, later on in the series, you'll see Bacala. He drops the gun when he does his one and only kill.
So the mob learned from the movies. So the actual real, you know.
But I also think that, you know, with DNA and the stuff that goes on now, I mean, you know, you drop the gun, you drop the stapler, and there's fingerprints on it. But I don't know. You see Tony do it. You see Bacala do it down the road. All right?
But Tony's probably not too worried. He knows Mikey's not going to, you know, go to the cops and rat him out that he got beat up.
But he gives Mikey a hell of a beating. Jesus
a big
Christ.
beating.
Big beating. Yeah. And he enjoys every moment of it. He's enjoying that.
He doesn't like Mikey.
Okay. Junior Social Club.
The Sit Tight Luncheonette. That's the name of the place where Junior. It's not really a social club. It's a luncheonette.
That's where he holds court. I mean, it's his daytime office. You see the big muscle guy. I guess he's a bodyguard. He's sitting at the counter. You know?
Junior says he's been waiting like patience on a monument, which comes from Shakespeare, Twelfth Night.
Uh-huh.
She sat like patience on a monument, smiling at grief. Was not this love indeed? That's Viola, the character in Twelfth Night. Patience was actually an allegorical figure of patience would be on Renaissance era tombstones.
Okay.
It's a woman kneeling on top of the tombstone, you know, and I guess I don't know where Junior pulls that out of. But
I want to ask you this.
From.
He says something, you put your mother in an asylum.
An asylum.
Like a pauvrette.
A pauvrette, which is a pauper.
Okay. I wanted to ask you
which is ridiculous because he's in the most expensive nursing home there is.
Like everything else, a complete contradiction, but very funny, you know.
And Junior says that next time you come heavy or don't come at all, which
correct.
Is very interesting. Saying bring a gun or
you
weapon
be ready.
Come.
You better be ready or don't come. You know.
That's a big line in the sand.
Enough of this is over. So Vin and his partner, they follow.
His partner played by Michael Buscemi,
which is Steve Buscemi's brother. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you know, he mentions that he picked up a bottle, so you know he's been drinking. And Melfi's date is Mark Blum.
Mark Blum, who passed away March 25th of this year from coronavirus.
And he
very
was
good actor. Yeah.
Terrific actor. Desperately Seeking Susan. He was in
a lot of Broadway.
A whole lot of stuff, man.
He was a teacher actually at HB Studios as well.
A really good character actor. A New York guy. He was in the first Crocodile Dundee. He played a real snobby boyfriend. It was very funny. And that's a fucking shame. So R.I.P. Mark Blum. And he plays Melfi's date. Vin pulls him over. Obviously not listening to Tony just to get the information. He's going to go a step further because he's a broken down Philly shitbag and didn't listen to Tony's instructions. And he gives Mark Blum a beating.
A really bad beating. And he's drunk. They make mention that he stopped off and bought some booze. So Makazian's drunk. And he's an angry guy and a bitter guy and an unhappy guy. And he takes it all out on this poor soul.
And horrible. He says, why you something
you
with hamburger.
At home. What are you looking for hamburger?
And Melfi doesn't.
Which is very stupid.
Melfi tells him to fuck you. She curses at him. Stay away from me. Don't you touch me. Melfi isn't backing down. And I'm going to call my lawyer. Okay, it's a bad scene. You know, they're out on a date. They had a nice time. Very bad scene. Unnecessary. Okay, they're back at the bada bing.
Now, first you have the scene at the construction site where Makazian reports to Tony about.
That's correct. Correct. I apologize.
And he brings up the fact that Melfi's in therapy with a guy named Elliot Kupferberg.
Tony doesn't like that.
Later, does not like that. Maybe she's talking about Tony.
That worries Tony.
He also mentions, Makazian says, I got 3 bills on Rutgers, which is Jim's alma mater.
And
Jim
Jim, some
Gandolfini.
people that don't know, Jim's roommate was Mario Batali.
That's right, at Rutgers.
Correct. They
That
went
is
to
true.
Rutgers together. And Jim always had an attachment to that school, even later on. But also,
I directed some commercials when Rutgers got Greg Schiano to come and be the football coach. I directed 2 commercials with Jim starred in them with his buddies Mark and those guys. They were all roommates, and Jim starred in the commercial, and I directed them for Rutgers University.
see, Jim never forgot where he came from. He always was giving back there, you know. And I know he did a lot for Rutgers. Also, he says, Vin, the lieutenant says to Tony that he's got Victoria secret snapshots
Of
Melfi. So he was in her window taking pictures like the degenerate he is. I mean,
Jim doesn't want to see them.
Tony does not give a shit, you know.
No.
All right, so now we're back at the Bing. They're eating big, giant
It's the
lobsters.
captain's lunch. Those guys are all captains. You got Larry Boy Berets, which is played by Tony Darrow, who was
we
great in
know,
Goodfellas.
and we
Sonny
know
Buns,
that he's
yeah.
done a ton of stuff. He was in Analyze This. Tony Darrow, great character actor.
George Loros, another acting teacher from Strasbourg also, but has done a veteran TV movie
I
actor,
believe
played a
he
lot of
worked with
wise
David.
guys.
I think he
Rockford Files.
Rockford Files with David. And
He
then you
plays
got
Raymond.
You got Joe Bottalucco, brother of Michael Bottalucco, an Emmy winner, and Joe, an actor, and also was our head prop guy.
But was Joe an actor before this?
I think he did some little stuff.
I don't know about that.
Really? Well, he's done stuff after that.
After that, but he was the prop guy on The Sopranos.
And he did a great job.
Season 1.
He did a great job.
Now, 2 of these guys eventually become rats.
Yes. George
Right.
Loros.
All right. Turns out he's wearing a wire.
And also Joe Bottalucco, which we'll see later on. But they're talking, I mean, they're really eating the lobster too. Those are big, giant, those are 7-pounders, man.
Those are big ones. Yeah.
You know, they're discussing, should it be a panel? Should one guy have the job? Nobody wants the job.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the job. I mean, you know, you're in the hot seat, you get this job, and no one wants it. And one of them, I think George Loros' character says, I have a son that's, you know, muscular, whatever he has, multiple sclerosis, MS. And nobody wants this job. And Tony is he's not sure if he wants it.
But these 3 guys think Tony would be a good choice.
Well, because they don't want it also. Anybody but themselves. I don't want the fucking top guy.
But
top
Tony kind of wants it.
Well, we shall soon find out. So AJ tells Jeremy he owes him $40, and they fight, and then they make another date to fight after school.
At 3:00.
Which someday you're going to tell me what that means.
I'm never allowed to tell you.
You will tell me what that means. Tony says hello to the father of AJ. He's at the nursery. Tony's
actually a great actor there, Guillermo Diaz, who works there, and Tony wants to buy DDT. I did an indie movie with him years ago called Girls Town that Ingenue Ellis was in, who was in Hungry Ghost. He also was on Weeds. He was on Scandal for several years.
He didn't play the father. Did he play the father?
No.
Oh, he would play the guy working at the nursery.
Yeah, he's a really good actor.
Okay.
Guillermo.
He has a small role. Now the father, who knows who Tony is, the father of the kid, Jeremy, who AJ gets into the fight with, very scared.
He's very good, that guy. He's really scared of Tony.
And he doesn't want anything to do with Tony. Okay, Soprano Kitchen. Tony faints again.
And Jim is great in that scene, by the way. The way he faints physically, the way he does it, the way he recovers, the way he sees it coming. His acting in that scene it's very subtle, but just perfect.
Is that the scene? Correct me if I'm wrong.
The panic attack. Yeah.
But he's still saying that it's a he. Carmela is assuming the therapist is a he, not a she. He doesn't want to tell her that, and she says that. She kind of threatens the marriage.
She demands that he stays in therapy. He's saying
he doesn't, if he quits, there's going to be a problem with the marriage.
So this is what I was bringing up earlier about women calling the shots in his life. You know, you got Melfi, you got Livia, you got Edie, Carmela, making these demands on his life. And I think that's what some of the subconscious stuff in the dream is about.
Melfi prescribes him Xanax.
And gives him very good advice on how to deal with Livia and Junior by giving them the illusion of being in control, like you would do with a kid sometimes. The illusion of being in control, and she recommends a book on how to deal with elders. But Tony's going to use this.
But maybe
Junior.
because he's such a narcissist that can't ever be.
Well, but he does that with Junior. He does that with Junior when he says, I want you to be the boss, but you got to give me Bloomfield and the paving union. So he's taking Melfi's advice here in a very
she gives him
way.
the book, which is very funny. Once again, these mobsters, they like reading. They're very well informed. So the street corner, Chris goes to pick up his money, and you have the thug on the street, the dope dealer, and he says, I gave it to one of Junior's guys. Once again, he mentions that you're shitting your pants, that Christopher's shitting his pants, and you give him a beating.
I choke him with his yo-yo. His name is Yo-Yo Mendez, and he gets choked with his Duncan yo-yo.
So AJ meets Jeremy in the schoolyard. Jeremy just gives the $40 without a fight. Of course, the kids boo. The father told him, just give the money.
And the scene ends in a signature John Patterson shot, which is kind of on a crane where he pulls out and then goes up to this point of view from the sky. John uses that a lot in his episodes to make a big dramatic point. And it's the first time he does it on The Sopranos.
And the father obviously is afraid of Tony Soprano, so the kid's not going to fight. And that's that.
But AJ doesn't know that.
Doesn't know that at that point. But at the bada bing, Tony sees the new cast. Jackie's passed away. They start crying. They say, pour a shot. Let's toast to him.
I love the dancer. The stripper says, I'll never forget where I was that day, like JFK's.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
She's very good.
And Christopher.
Chris with the worst timing in the world.
Christopher
just the
comes
worst
in.
timing.
This is DEFCON 4. And
Head of steam. He's really pissed
now
off.
in the stage notes, did it say to have a Scarface accent, or you did that on your own? Because you say hello to my little friends.
I guess,
Do you remember?
just could be assumed that that's how to do it. Right?
And it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. And you got the neck brace on. That makes everything 10 times funnier.
Right.
Tony Gray, even in this moment where they're sad, there's humor. They're all sad about their boss and friend dying. They're taking a shot. It's the four of them, Paulie, Silvio, Pussy. And here comes Christopher with the neck brace. Say hello to my little friend, DEFCON 4. Still becomes humor in the scene. Tony chokes you, threatens you. Now, Paulie Walnuts, Tony Sirico, as he does throughout the series, you see him holding his hands like this. See?
Do you know why?
James Cagney?
No.
All right, tell me why.
It's
it a lot.
It's a jail thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The jail
I thought
thing.
you saw Cagney do it.
No, it's a jail thing that you always have your hands at the ready in front of you in case you need to defend yourself or attack. You don't want your hands behind your back or in your pockets where you can't use them quickly. That's what he told me, at least.
That's what he told you, because he does that a lot. You'll see him just
like
holding his fingers, and I thought, he's such a huge Cagney fan.
He's a Cagney fan.
And when we were shooting Nicky Deuce up in Montreal, I said something to him, just breaking his balls, about Cagney, a little derogatory, and he went off on me. I don't want to fucking hear it. Shut your fucking mouth. It was like we were doing a scene.
He didn't like that. No, you're not allowed to do that.
Do not talk to Tony Sirico about James Cagney. All right, now, Junior, we're back in the...
but now even Christopher said this shit, but he was right, because Tony takes action. It's like Junior is moving in, and he's not supposed to be moving in on Tony's
But just bad timing.
Bad, horrible timing.
Not everything Christopher says is wrong.
No.
Tony's
It's
been
also
getting shit on.
sometimes the delivery.
You know,
That's
it's just
not ideal.
It's fantastic. All right, so he goes back. This time Tony comes heavy, which means gun in hand.
And very sparse dialogue in the beginning of this scene. And Dominic is just fantastic. He's very subtle. There's tension, and then Tony does what Melfi said: give him the illusion of control. I want you to do it, but Tony knows he's really going to be calling the shots behind Dominic's back.
But when he tells Junior that he's going to be the boss, that Junior's going to be the boss, the look on Uncle Junior's face, he doesn't want to smile. You see his eyes. It's incredible, incredible. It says it all right there. He doesn't want to.
Thing we talked about appreciation. He wants to be He wants to be validated. He wants to be appreciated.
I mean,
very important.
Tony does not want this job. Incredible. All right. So Meadows' room. AJ's confused why Jeremy didn't fight.
She says to him as he walks in the room, "You know the rules.
Take your shoes off."
So we see her being this. She's
tough, but she's
tough.
She's tough throughout the series.
Yeah. Another strong woman. Exactly.
Do you know what Daddy does for a living? He has no idea. She says you could be so naive sometimes. And she goes to the website and shows that his dad is a mobster and in the mob. And,
cheesy 1999 website too. You don't see websites like that.
It was a cheesy one.
Very dated.
So Melfi arrives at the boyfriend's house. He's been in hiding. He's paranoid. He's scared. This guy scared the shit out of him.
But I like her right before she goes in.
She props up.
She wants that. She
likes
some action. It looks like
she likes this guy.
She likes him, and she
likes
him.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's scared, and rightfully so. He doesn't know where this came from. They have no idea. Neither one. I mean, she has no idea. It could be Tony Soprano. None whatsoever.
No,
no idea. No idea.
She does not have any idea.
AJ's bedroom. He's lying in bed. He looks at a picture of him and his dad fishing. I guess it doesn't show that he's so upset, but I don't know. Is he disappointed?
I think he's confused. I think he's a little confused and has to. It's a big thing, I guess, for the kid to absorb. And it's interesting because it cuts from AJ looking at this picture of him and his father on a fishing trip to Tony saying in therapy, "I saw my first dead body at 15 or 16." Making that comparison between AJ as a kid living this kind of sheltered life in a big house, with all the
because she says, "Do you know what Dad does for a living?" He says, he's in waste management. She says, "How many garbage men live in a house like this?" Okay.
Right. But seeing that contrast between the father and son, and now Tony talking about him seeing a dead body when he was 15 years old, and he can't talk about what happened. And Melfi's kind of distracted in this scene. And Lorraine is great in this scene.
Yeah.
She's very subtle. She's really, you really believe her, this woman going through this thing. And it's kind of like, again, the dream coming true. The dream at the beginning, this prophetic dream. He's saying to her, "Are you okay?" Because at the beginning of the show, he said, "Do you have anything to say?"
Yeah.
And that's kind of happening. It's kind of coming true. You're going to say something.
And she tells him the story, and obviously he knows now.
He realizes that Makazian was...
He went way over the line. Okay, Jackie's funeral. Is this our first of many funerals?
This is Jersey City Cemetery. That's the name of it.
This is the one of many.
One of many, and I just shot in that cemetery this year on the new series on NBC that I'm on, Lincoln Rhyme, and we shot in that cemetery. But it was winter. When we shot this cemetery, it was the dead of summer, and it's kind of sunken, that cemetery.
Yeah.
It's down in this ravine. There. It was hot as hell. It was humid as hell. We were all dying. We're all in black. We're all in suits. I'll never forget it. And we were all there. There's a famous still photograph that
of the five of you,
of me, Vinny, Tony, Stevie, and Jim in front of a tombstone.
And then there's also famous, iconic clip of Jim when he winks at his son at the end,
Right.
and also of Meadow looking at AJ. Those became iconic shots. The
Right.
graveyard, obviously, of the five of you. Now, the truth is, Tony, he's talking, telling the guys, let him think.
Junior's happy.
Let him think.
Let him think he's the boss, but he's not, right?
And he's sitting. But then Tony says, look at them. My mother's, they're sitting together. They went through World War II about Junior and Livia.
Right, so, expressing admiration and respect.
Absolutely. Tony is still the boss. Junior's just a figurehead.
Right. And now we also, Christopher says, take a look, Tony, at the government, and it cuts to the FBI photographing everybody at the funeral.
And like I said, AJ is watching his dad. His dad winks at him. He realizes his dad's in the mob. Like you said, probably a little confused. He's still young. And Meadow looks at him like, I told you.
I was right. Is this the first time we become aware of the FBI?
First time.
Yeah.
First time we see that.
And then this great song, another one of my favorite bands, Mazzy Star, the song Look On Down From the Bridge starts playing with an organ. It's almost like a funeral song. And then it's just the mood of it. The mood of it just works so brilliantly. It's a fantastic band. Hope Sandoval's a singer, and a guy named David Roback who passed away earlier this year from that band. But
I don't
it's a great
think
album.
Before The Sopranos, I don't think TV shows use music that much.
Not like they did.
Not like this at all. No. I think, and now after this, you see that a lot.
Sure.
Breaking Bad and a lot of the other shows, you see them using music. Like Sopranos was groundbreaking in so many ways. The anti-hero, Tony Soprano, we're rooting for this bad guy. The music, so many different ways. Something I wanted to ask you, not pertaining to this episode, I've heard just in a few other episodes, I heard a term that I had never heard before. Christopher says, I wet the guy, meaning that you killed the guy, you knocked off the guy. I've never heard that.
Yeah, you wet him, meaning you made.
I just never heard that. That's all.
Bloody. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a real good one. I just never had heard that. Well, it was a great episode, baby.
All right, we have to move to our Ask Me Anything segment. This episode of Talking Sopranos is supported by Bose. You can experience immersive audio anywhere with the Bose Noise Canceling Headphones 700. Bose is also the sponsor of our Ask Me Anything Best Question of the Week segment. And the winner of our AMA Best Question of the Week is Matt P.
From Boston, Mass.
Boston, Massachusetts. We're going to send Matt a pair of Bose headphones.
Now, just so you people know out there, you go to the website and there's a space.
What's the website? www.talkingsopranos.com.
Yes. And you're able to ask a question, put it down. And if we pick your question, you will be given a Bose 700, one of these that I'm wearing and Michael's wearing. We will send you one of those. We swear we will. We won't send you some shitty headphones and make believe it's a Bose coming. We're going to send you the real deal.
Real one. No bootleg.
Matt P. from Boston, Mass. I love Boston. We got a lot of friends up there. Can you speak? This is Matt's question. Can you speak to the type of presence Dominic Chianese had on set? He's clearly a multifaceted artist and an incredibly deep individual. Did he bring a lot of leadership and insight? So,
well, you should cover this first because you worked very closely with Dominic. You were his right-hand man.
Yeah, when I first came on the show in the second episode of the second season, the first few seasons on the show, I worked exclusively with Dominic. Could not have been a better guy. Listen, I was kind of green. I mean, I had worked, but you got some actors aren't that generous. A guy could bury another guy. A guy. Some actors, people may not believe it, but they're fucking mean and they don't want to see you do well. They could have said, who's this fucking guy? He started late in life. How dare he be on the show?
Or they just want to make your experience miserable.
So Dominic, who had been in a ton of stuff, obviously Johnny Ola being the biggest thing. Dominic was 68 years old when 68 or a little younger when The Sopranos started. He's 89 now. Okay, he was living in a studio apartment. As soon as I met him, it was like I knew the guy forever. And we did the scene that I auditioned for was me and him in this psychiatrist's office when he tells the joke about the cataracts, and I'm not getting Bacala's not getting the joke. So we worked together so much. We would just sit and talk about acting, just talk about stuff. Always sat with me in the chair, and he was a mentor. He would ask me some stuff. He was helping me the entire way, not giving me tips per se, but just his presence. Never once even close to having a bad time. I looked forward to seeing him. We had his bachelor party. Remember we had his bachelor party at Il Cortile? Were you there?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
At his bachelor party, I gave the toast. The whole cast and then some. We had about 50 guys there. He was singing his Italian songs, which he did a lot. He would bring his guitar on the set and he would sing.
He'd often go to nursing homes and entertain
Still
people
does.
in nursing homes.
Still does. And also, he was the MC at Folk City in the Village in the early 60s.
The 60s, yes.
Early 60s. So he saw all those comics, all those great folk singers. Dominic was there the whole way. I mean,
And he's a wonderful guy. I had his cousin as a school teacher when I was going to elementary school. Dominic's from the Bronx.
Yeah.
A lot of my family's from the Bronx, and I grew up in Mount Vernon, right next to the Bronx. And one of my teachers was his cousin, Mrs. Chianese, who I remember. Who were friends. She was friends with my grandmother. But I saw Dominic before Sopranos in a play with Al Pacino called Chinese Coffee, a two-hander play, and he was just brilliant.
Just terrific.
Love him.
And he would tell me I had the fat suit on, but he would say, use it. Use your belly.
Use it as an actor. Yeah.
Use it as an actor. Use your belly. I don't think he went to acting school. I don't think Dominic ever did. I just think he was kind of self-taught and through his experience. And Jim loved working with Dominic. Everyone loved working with Dominic. If you're not a Dominic Chianese fan, there's something fucking wrong.
Oh, he's the best.
He's a good guy. He was a big presence and a good friend. And I love him, and I hope he's safe out there.
All right. Thank you, Matt P. Congratulations on your Bose headset. Visit Bose.com to learn more.
All right,
That's
man.
it for this week.
This was a good one. Michael Rispoli, thanks again.
Big thanks to Mike Rispoli.
Terrific guest to do this. All right, thanks for listening. And remember to subscribe to the Talking Sopranos podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Our executive producer is Jeff Sussman. Producer is Andy Verderam. Our music was composed and performed by Elijah Amerton, who used to go by the name Community Room for a brief time, but is now using his own name, Elijah Amerton, a very talented composer, musician. Our production crew includes Eric Desi, Bobby Hutch, Frank McKay, Ty Verderam, and Ciara Sharippa. Talking Sopranos is a Pod Jams production.
Take care, man. I'll talk to you, Michael. I had a guy brought me a big mozzarella from Faico's yesterday.
That's nice.
I'm going to crack into that right now.
There you go. Enjoy.
I'll see you, buddy.